Welcome to another episode of last week's Comics Today. I am feeling hungry this morning. I want to get through this. And we're going to start with Jonna and the Unpossible Monsters. This is issue 12. Should be on here somewhere, right? Right? 12. Yes, there it is. So this is the end of the series. And it's been a while, I think, since issue 11. But I've been waiting for this. I wanted to see how it ends. And this ends well. So there are, as usual, some giant monster fights. There is family that was found at the end of the previous issue, and everything, like I say, everything ends well, but it kind of does. So this is great. I've recommended this, especially for kids. I think it's kind of a kid's book. I guess, depending on the age of the kids, but like 10 to 12 range. I think this is great for them. Still recommended. If you are at all interested, there should be a collection inevitably coming out soon. So grab that. I enjoyed this. On the other hand, we then have Danger Street issue 1. This is a 12-issue series. It's Tom King, and this issue is the reason why I say you can't trust Tom King. I have been enjoying some of his stuff recently, and then I get to this, and it felt like a chore to get through. This ultimately might wind up being good. I mean, the series overall. But thus far, let me just say I'm not going to be getting issue 2. Let me just say that. Thus far, there are a lot of characters speaking vaguely about things that the audience is not clued into, and I don't care. This feels like it might turn into something similar to Seven Soldiers of Victory, where there are somewhat independent storylines with a variety of deep characters, and everything comes together in some satisfying way at the end. But so far, this is none of that. It's just kind of a chore to get through. There are some fun moments, some fun characters. I'm liking Lady Cop so far, but this whole thing with Warlord, Starman, and who's the other guy? Metamorpho is just the worst. There's so much of this just vague conversation talk where they are specifically excluding the audience, and I'm just like, I can't, I don't want to do this. I'm out. So, I'm out. Nightclub issue 1. A big deal was made out of $1.99 price. I think it's the whole series. It's going to be priced at $1.99 each issue, and, you know, that's nice. So I grabbed this because it was cheap, and Mark Millar is another creator, another writer specifically, who I can't trust. I have quite enjoyed some of his other work, and then some books I very much dislike. The art is good. I like the art. The story is okay. It might go somewhere. There's this character here who claims to be a cop. I don't know how trustworthy he is, because he is dressed sort of like a wrestling hobo with these boots and a sweatshirt, knit cap. I don't know what's happening there, but I don't know. It's teenage vampires, and you can see some luchador masks, so maybe you can guess where things are going. But I grabbed this. Well, this was on my pull list. Some of this other stuff was not on my pull list that I grabbed this week, but it's okay. It's certainly no Huck. It's maybe, I was gonna say Starlight, but I liked the first issue of Starlight, so I don't know. It's somewhere between Huck and Wanted / Nemesis, which I hated and never wanted to read again, and Huck, Starlight, that in that first issue I was all in. So somewhere between those falls Nightclub. I don't know. Oh boy. So we have Batman Spawn, the new Spawn Batman. I don't know whose name is first, I guess. Batman Spawn. So it is McFarlane and Capullo, and I'll say that the art is nice. The writing is still Todd. And you'd think, after all these years, I just saw an Instagram post from a friend of mine who's an artist, where he was talking about, he showed off his artwork from the 90s and then his artwork, strangely, from 2018. I don't know why he didn't post something more modern, but whatever. It's not the point. He showed off his artwork over time, right? And there was a huge progression. And he made a comment of art is a skill and not a talent. It takes hard work, but you can get better at it. Todd somehow has not improved his writing from the 90s. You would think after all these decades he would be better at it, but he is very much not. And that is ultimately the downfall of this book. But it's not going to be a downfall, because I think thousands of people are buying this just for the variant covers, which goes back to my theory that the number of variant covers a book has, the publisher has less faith in the internal content. And I think a lot of people are buying this for the covers. They're never even going to read it. They're going to... I've already seen some people that went to Barnes & Noble and like grabbed the best copies of whatever cover they have and then are going to get it CGC graded. And I'm like, doesn't matter if the cover's nice if nobody wants to read the book. And I don't know, it feels like kind of a Beanie Babies thing where it's just manufactured hype. But anyway, this is bad. Avoid it. There's possibly going to be a follow-up. There's an epilogue that confuses the book even more than... This is confusing as hell. Like, it's not good. There's a sequence in here where it should be important. I was flipping through this. You already saw it, the Joker, but let me just show you this. So there's a scene with Joker, and in this there's a reference to something that didn't happen on the previous pages, because these two rows here, they sort of time-lapse investigating, and then they come to Joker, and he references something that I guess happens in here, but doesn't actually happen on the page. It's so dumb. Let me continue this rant for another minute, because I just watched the Black Adam movie last night. It just hit HBO. I watched it. It is not good. But this and Black Adam feel like they were cut from the same cloth. In that, I'm saying the entire thrust of the thing is just to get to the next fight. So the story takes a backseat in order to get to the next action sequence. And it's really, really bad. It's just bad. Do not get this, which it's too late, I'm sure, for almost all of us. We already bought it. But this is bad. This will be give it away. So I need to give away some more garbage books, and this will be in that stack of giveaway stuff, because I don't want this in my house. Dark Ride issue 3. Again, it feels like more stuff has happened than just 2 previous issues. But it starts, and it starts with something that I don't remember happening, which is this sequence here. Oof. So, someone's cutting the wrist, and I won't tell you who that was. If you read issue 2, then you already know, and if you haven't, then maybe you should check it out. But this is good. It's the same creative team as Birthright, which I very much enjoyed. I'll say this too. I brought this into the bedroom. I keep a comic or 2 on the nightstand so that I can do some reading before going to sleep. And my wife saw this cover. She's like, "Oh, those are cute little monsters." And then she's like, I think even before she finished that sentence, she's like, oh no, they're not. Because obviously this is happening. But she just saw this. And yeah, I think that's pretty appropriate. Somebody else sees one of these characters and questions what they're doing and why at the end of the book, and that's quite good. So the story is quite enjoyable. It has more threads than I kind of expected too, because there's there's a number of characters. They're all doing things independently, but it's all centered around this devil-themed amusement park, and I'm really enjoying it. Leonide the Vampyr. I grabbed this off the shelf. I did not pre-order this, so this wasn't in my pull, but I grabbed this off the rack. I tend to get the Christmas-themed, the holiday, winter special, one-shot, whatever, that Mignola puts out each year. This year, it has art by Raquel, and I don't know her, but I want to know more. I think her art is awesome. It's very clean, also very expressive. I need to look her up and see what else she's done. So it does star this vampire and this character. Story is, I think, great. It got a pretty low rating on my comic shop's weekly newsletter. I very much enjoyed it. I think this was the second book I read this week after Jonna. But I very much enjoyed this, and now I want to seek out more from this artist. I just think she's great. Look at that. Anyway, this feels like it could or should thematically fit into one of two places, which is either our encounters with evil characters and that world, or the and other stories from Amazing Screw-On-Head and Other Stories. And I say that because of this epilogue with this statue and some crumbling rocks and miscellaneous things. This is very much the connective tissue that was in the Amazing Screw-On-Head and Other Stories that I recently read, and there was a new collection or two that also recently came out. So I enjoyed this. I think, all of the winter, holiday, Christmas themed one-shots. But I enjoyed this. If you have a couple of extra bucks to spare next week at the comic shop, try to grab this. I don't know if this came out last week or the week before, but I had a smaller week of books, so I grabbed a couple of things off the shelf, including Behold Behemoth #2. I wasn't a huge fan of issue 1. I wanted to see where things go, and they take it in a pretty interesting direction. So the first issue takes place almost entirely in the, I will say, real world, and then it jumps over to this fantasy world that you catch a couple of, well, that's not that fantasy, but some of this stuff is going on, and that. So it jumps over to that. There's a couple of points throughout the first issue, and then you get a larger chunk of it at the end of the issue. This is sort of the flip of that, where almost the entire thing takes place in the fantasy world, and then it flips back to the real world at the very end. It's still not... At some point I need to talk about layouts, because sometimes I get confused about the reading order, and so I was trying to read this way and then come back down here. That didn't seem to work, and this, I think, is a Z pattern. It's the only way that anything made sense to me, but I don't know that you should. It's not instinctual to read in a Z pattern on a 2-page spread. But anyway, at some point I will talk about layouts. So this is fine, I guess. It's still not good. I probably won't get issue 3 unless it's another small week and I'm just curious. But this is... It feels like the creators are trying to do something important and forgetting to tell a story along the way. And that's not the only case of that happening. I think Danger Street is sort of in the same boat. Danger Street also had some layout issues, at least for me, that I did not talk about. But this is forgettable, I guess. Lastly, there is Gargoyles #1, which I know came out the previous week, which is why I threw it at the end. I was not hooked. I was a fan of the cartoon. I'm still a fan, sort of the property. I'm waiting for someone to restart it in the modern era, and I don't think this is that for me. I read the preview pages that were released months ago, and they didn't hook me. It's this opening sequence here. There's a car chase, and the art's nice. Car chase, and then you get an introduction to every character, almost. And these text boxes are her speaking, right? And she's literally reciting the opening sequence. So the title story that tells you what's happening before every episode starts, she's literally stating that in this opening sequence. So the narration, I'm saying, is heavy-handed, and then it gets to a point. Every character gets introduced, all of their relationships are introduced, and then it comes to a point where you actually get to something new, and it makes sense that it's not narrated because she's not there and she is the narrator, but I guess she's only narrating sequences that she's in, which is a little weird. But anyway, it gets to this character that I think maybe needs an introduction, and actually that's not true, because she does narrate another sequence where, yeah, that's super weird. So there's a couple of things that happen. She's not there, but she's still narrating this part here. So he shows up. I'm just going to show off practically this whole book, but he shows up, and that gets narration, quite a lot of it, explaining his whole backstory. And then we cut to this guy, who I think needs an intro, and we get to him, I think also needs an intro. Nothing. No text boxes. Like, I remember who that is, but if this is written as if it's for people that don't remember, because it very much feels that way, it also feels like it's written for kids, which is fine. It's weird. It feels a little bipolar, where I don't know. I'm probably not getting any more of these, but it's just not for me. This is it's fine if somebody else becomes fans of Gargoyles from this, but this is not for me. I want something a bit more, I don't know what I want, but it's not this. I know that much. Lastly, for the week, I got the new Killer Affairs of the State. There are 5 previous volumes. The last one came out, I just checked, in 2017. Now, I don't remember if something was said at the time, or maybe it was just the conclusion to that story, that was the final volume. However, I don't know if the creative team came back because Netflix and David Fincher are doing an adaptation of this. I just looked it up last night. It's Fassbender that is, I guess, going to be the titular hero, and I think he constantly makes this face, and I think Ryan Gosling would have been perfect. That is his default face, regardless of what the scene calls for. Anyway, I like Fassbender, and I'll watch this whenever it comes out. I have not read this yet, mostly because it is quite dense. I was able to get through Lazarus because there were sequences of practically no speaking that I don't know if that video hasn't gone up yet, but will by the time you see this. So, yes, Lazarus was a faster read, and I'm looking forward to this. I was a fan of the previous volumes, and I'm looking forward to getting to this. You probably won't see a video on this until January because I've already got stuff scheduled until January. So I will get to this as soon as I possibly can. But that is everything that I got this week, and I really enjoyed this. I don't know if it's getting pick of the week. Last time I went off on a 7-minute rant about Gargoyles, or the last time I went off on a 7-minute rant on Wildcats, I was asked the next time I had a rant to call myself Burnt Toast, so I will reference that here. This is, it wasn't a 7-minute rant, but it certainly was a rant about how bad this is. The only 2 even possible contenders for Pick of the Week this week are Leonide and Jonna. Jonna ends really well. Leonide just has, I don't know, there's kind of a whimsy to it. There's something fun, even though the story's on the darker side. But I mean, just look at this. Well-dressed crows. Looks fantastic. I'm really enjoying this. So I will give these 2 books pick of the week. Grab the trade for this, the collection of the whole series that I'm sure is coming. And if you have, like I said, a couple of extra bucks next time you're at the shop, I'd grab this too. And I still plan to check out whatever else she has done, because I want to see more of that artist. So that is everything that I got this week. As always, I get all of my books from a local comic shop. If you don't know where yours is, you can use this URL to find the one closest to you. Thanks for watching.